Welcome to my show where we talk about love, where we allow ourselves joy and compassion, where we are open to our authenticity, where speaking our truth is our birthright and we claim our abundance, our prosperity. Welcome here to this space where I share my love for healing, my love for connecting with women on a soul level, because I believe that we all have a purpose on this planet, and I am here to help you awaken that aspect of yourself. I am here to help you claim your inner power of safety and trust and creativity and confidence and love and healing and speaking your truth and intuition and connecting with those around you. Here and now is this space that I have created to join women together. I love you and I'm so grateful for you. May we lead with love and light, joy and compassion, my beautiful soul sisters. Hello, my lovely soul sisters. Let us start today's practice with 5 very conscious breaths. So whatever's going on, all the things and expectations, let's drop into our heart for a moment and take a big breath, inhaling into that space of the heart and the diaphragm. Exhale, melt the shoulders away from the ears, press it out. 4 more of those at your own pace. We're here. It's such a powerful practice when we can become aware of our breath, because with all of these racing thoughts, where some people say that we have an upwards of 80,000 thoughts a day, and with the helpful practice of breath work, which is this incredible practice that I use all of the time, that it can help bring us from that freaking crazy mind into our hearts. And we can be here and we can share from our authentic, vulnerable, heart-centered selves, opposed to our ego. Every time I have an episode coming up, it's like this push and pull between, what do we think about today? Or what do we talk about? And there's always so many ideas. And if you are one of my people, I'm so grateful for you. Thank you so much for showing up with me here. I think we're on episode 24, which is so huge. Like, oh my gosh, it just gives me goosebumps, and just knowing that when you continue to show up doing something, time just passes. So knowing that if we put our attention and energy into something, we can grow these different parts of ourselves. And I have been in this space lately where I can feel this like creativity in my solar plexus and like down in my guts and my tummy. And I can just like feel this building. And yesterday I had this amazing experience with this beautiful woman named Shauna, and shout out to you, Shauna, if you're listening. I love you. She is this incredible entrepreneur, business owner who loves cleaning people's houses. And we were chatting about our spirit animals, and she was sharing about the different spirit animals that she has that have showed up for her, that she thought maybe it was an owl, and then she thought that was for her son, and then it was an elephant, and then she was sharing with me about sharks, and that sharks have been like showing up for her, and that it's like Shark Week and she can't like peel herself away from watching these sharks. And then she looked up the spiritual meaning of sharks, and it is powerful. It was something along the lines of like that you're rebirthing and you're getting ready to grow in your business and like create something new for yourself. And when she was sharing that with me, I felt like this, oh my gosh, Shelley, listen, this message is also for you. And it really resonates with me that the animals that show up in our daily lives, that those are our spirit animals of the day. And I know a lot of people can more resonate with having like an animal spirit totem that shows up once and then that's like your primary guide. And I think that that can definitely resonate too if that settles with you and feels great. And I know for me that every time I feel the presence of an animal or a bird or an insect, I really do believe that the universe is here supporting us and showing us signs. And it's up to us if we're actually listening to these signs because we get so caught up in the doing of life that we don't even see the beauty and the freaking miracles around us. And I had this kind of like crossing with a neighbor from an adjacent neighborhood, and it was so wonderful. She was like walking with her chocolate lab, and she was sharing how she loved Estes Park so much and how magical it was, and that she felt so grateful and that she could see the magic every single day, and that if she woke up a day and she didn't acknowledge the magic, that she needed to move along. And I feel that too. Like every time I see an elk or a deer, instead of getting annoyed, because many years ago, my husband and I lived up here for 4 years right after we got married, and we were in a completely different space in our lives back then. And we were really into drinking and we were doing drugs and we were really unhealthy and just hanging out with bad people. And we never went for hikes. We never acknowledged the mountains. I would get annoyed of elk. I would get annoyed of tourists. All I wanted to do was just have my, what was it, like vodka tonic or gin and tonic at nighttime and dance and do whatever I did. And when Rex brought up that he wanted to move back here, I had this like such resistance. And first it was because I didn't want to leave my sisters and my nephews and nieces. Like we are in the full throttle of raising kids and them growing up. And even my oldest nephew, Kelton, is freaking 14. He's 14. And my husband and I were just talking about like, he really only has 4 years left. And if he chooses, he can move out of the house. Like, that is, I can't, what? How has time like came here? I can't even imagine that. And I remember resisting so hard for many years. And even many years ago, Rex and I actually planned on moving up here. We got a house and the contract fell through, and $5,000 of the earnest money went to the people that we were going to buy the house from. And I just felt like the universe was like, Shelly, it's not time. And I stayed and we moved from Fort Collins to Loveland, which I felt like was a more in the middle point because my husband has a company up here in the mountains. And we moved in the middle. And then we were in the middle. And then I really did. I just like felt like I was in the middle and I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. Like I've always struggled with that in my life, having that sense of belonging and that sense of like, what is home? Like, what really is a home? Because as a kid, I moved 49 times and I have no idea what's going on with my throat. It is like doing some weird shit right now. So bear with me and my humanness. And I just always longed for having a home, but never feeling like it. And even my husband and I bought our first house when we were 23 and 24. And that was huge for my family because growing up as a kid, we never owned a house. We moved those 49 plus times, and we just were always like uprattled and uprooted. And when I bought the house, it was a huge deal for me and for my sisters. And like, wow, you can own something that is yours and make it yours. But that first house we lived in for 7 years never really felt like home. And then buying and selling. And now here we are in our fifth house. And I finally surrendered to the universe and just let go of my perceptions of what needed to happen and leaving my sisters and leaving my nephews and nieces. And I just opened, and I opened in 2 years now. Here we are in this beautiful home. And it's not just like this physical home that feels like home. It is just like the energy surrounding this house and this space and the mountains, my beautiful soul sisters. Like nature. It's this space that allows us, that no matter what's happening in our lives, that it freaking connects us. It brings us back to those birth feelings, to those innate primordial feelings of oneness, of beauty and joy and stillness and peace. And that's why I always say this, and you might resonate too, whenever you go for a hike or you're out in nature, people are just in such a better mood because you're in alignment with the vibration of nature and trees and beauty and the animals and the dirt and the soil. And it's just, we can feel one with the earth, and people are just happy and smiling. And yeah, of course, you'll pass a few people where you're like, okay, well, maybe this is not working for you. But it's like this space that I call home, these beautiful mountains that I am so grateful. I'm so grateful that I have allowed myself to show up. And I've no doubt in my mind that I have manifested this space and where I am at in my life. And I'm here, and I'm here in mountains, and it's so wonderful because I can step out on my freaking front deck and I just see this beautiful panoramic view of the west corridor of the Rocky Mountain National Park, and that I can get in my car and drive, no doubt, like no lies here, 4 minutes to this beautiful hike that I do at least 3 days a week. And it was so amazing because yesterday, one of my soul sisters who I hadn't seen or connected with really in 8 months, that I've known for like 15, 16 plus years, and she came up here and we went for a hike together. And she's this beautiful power presence, and she's probably like 5'4" and I'm 5'9", but she is a badass, amazing yogi and like spiritual, amazing, heart-centered, authentic woman that sometimes I just feel like we are the same woman. I like look at her and me, and she feels the same thing. We feel the same push and pull, and we had the best time, and it was so nice that we had no kids. And I did bring Jasper, my 18-month-old golden doodle, who is a daddy now. And if you haven't been listening, I don't know if I've told you, but we're getting a third dog. I like have to laugh at myself because I've always been like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get 3 dogs. Like, I have friends who have 3 dogs, and it's kind of like mass chaos, but my house is already mass chaos. So what the heck, universe? What is one more? Like, I can't deny love. And this beautiful little baby opalite who we're going to have Junie train, and she's going to be like a service dog for her to help with anxiety, mostly anxiety. Like, she's going to help her with coping a lot. And I was affirmed by this beautiful woman who's also a pet psychic. She can tune into animals' energies, and she affirmed like this connection with Junie, and it was amazing. But anyways, back to my hike with my soul sister. It was just like, it was so amazing. And I've been married for 18 years, and she's been married for 22 years, I think she said. And the struggles that we both have been having with our husbands were different, but the same. And I was sharing with her, if you've been following, you will know that my husband and I have off and on been struggling. This year has just been a really fucking hard year for our marriage and our relationship, and the universe is testing us. But I made this choice that I'm going to let go of the past. I'm going to let go of my fear of the known, because this has been coming up for me a lot, is that I have this fear of the known, that I know the way my husband's going to respond, or I know the way he's going to react in situations. And I've decided to flip that perspective, that I'm open to whatever the universe is bringing me in this moment, and I'm not going to judge that fear of what if this happens. And I was sharing how it's been hard because I have fallen out of love with my husband, and that it's been challenging because, our bodies are shifting and changing, and I have not felt super sexually attracted to my husband lately, and he has been feeling really attracted to me. And sometimes I feel like it's like this old programming of myself that I feel like I don't deserve love, or I almost get this like weird, I think it's like this freaking deep-seated childhood triggering of like that it's gross to have sex or it's gross to be loved or I'm not worthy of love. And it's weird. It's like this response in my system and I can almost notice it. And then I like push it away or I'll push him away like, no, 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 no. Or it's like I always feel like my husband wants to have sex when it's like the kids are around playing and then he wants to just like go into the bathroom or the bedroom. And I'm like, I can't do that. Like, I can't just like turn off the kids screaming and yelling. Like, that's not very sexy or attractive to me. And I just haven't felt that like attraction to him. And she was asking me, like, well, what do you do when that happens? What do you do when you're not feeling attracted to him? And like, we were talking about how long it's been since we've like had sex. And we went like 4 weeks to 6 weeks. And she was saying for her that it was like 3 months. And she was feeling like, God, I don't know what to do. Like, same thing. I'm not feeling attracted to him. And then I was sharing that I know that one of my sisters had a 6 month dry spell. And like, we being in these long term relationships, they have great challenges. And even when it comes to our sexuality with our partner and our relationship with them, and if we're feeling stressed or our partner's feeling stressed, like I think it shuts down our libido. And especially in men, like the older they get, my husband just turned 40 and her husband's in his 50s. And it's, like the sex drive. And I think even the testosterone levels go down. And especially men like my husband has been off and on having like bouts of depression and he's been having his own kind of like self-doubt and he's like on his own, he's on like the brink of a spiritual journey, even though he would never admit it because he like somehow feels like that's like woo woo or weird. And I'm like, well, join the club. I am woo woo and weird. And it's funny that word woo woo has never really resonated with me, but call it whatever you will. We are all fucking spirits. We all have a soul within us. That's why we have these experiences or connections with people that you can't describe. Or like we went to Steamboat this weekend and there was this teenage boy who got pulled in the current and you could just feel the collective consciousness shifting to this boy and watching him and everyone was like wanting to save him all at the same time. And then this man jumped in the water and this boy was like, help, help, and struggling, and his glasses flew off. It gives me goosebumps. And the man who swam over across the current was like, I'm going to come up from behind you. And I could hear him. And I was like several hundred feet away from him, but I was like magnetized in there. And so was everyone else. Like, we are a collective of people. And this man rescues this kid and wraps his arms around him and swims up to the shore, and the kid's just and bawling, and I could just feel all the energy and the sadness and the collectiveness. It was like they went from being this really fun outside space to this like, oh my gosh, this kid almost drowned. But together as a collective, as a community, we were all like, we all had our awareness like, ooh, honed in on this boy. And it was crazy too, because even my kids who were just like swimming around, which it was kind of a crazy experience because we were in Steamboat in the Yampa River, and it was this space where there was a bunch of rocks and then the water dropped down and it was like, those white rapids, and then it pushed out and it was really deep, and then it pushed long through down carrying to the river. And in this space, like, people are constantly rafting and coming through, so my kids would be climbing across with a ton of other kids, like at least 20 people out there. And then big old inner tubers would come down and float and then even just barricade across the kids. And the people couldn't help it because they're not steering. They're just floating down the river. And there was like at least 4 or 5 moments where Jack just scared the crap out of me, like trying to swim up. But he is just amazing and so strong. And I'm so grateful that my kids are big enough to be in water without flotation devices, because honestly, being a mom when my kids were small in water, I had severe anxiety, and it was horrible. I could never enjoy it because I always had that underlying fear that they were going to drown. I always held that fear. Like, I grew up so much fear, and I know it probably maybe has even something to do with one of my past lives. And I don't know if somebody drowned in a past life or what happened, but water has always been this like constricting feeling that makes me want to crawl out of my skin. And this was like the first real time that I allowed my kids. I mean, I had a few moments, let's be honest here, where it was like, oh my God, Jack. And he was like down there, and I could tell the water was so deep. And he was like doggy paddling, and he's so determined that he would just make it his way across. And only one time I jumped into the water like I was going to save him. And he was like, no, Mom, no, you don't need to get wet. But it was funny because even though like part of me wanted to get in the water, there was this part of me that was like, I'm just gonna not get in the water. And so I did it. And I'm holding space for that and for whatever it is. And knowing that my beautiful soul sisters, that we all have these experiences like this, or this anxiety that arises around specific experiences, because sometimes we have trauma. We have these triggers, and they could be from here, this life, or they could even be from a past life. They could be from something else that we don't even know or comprehend. And we have to just hold space for that. And really, I feel like it would have been so helpful when my kids were little if I would have communicated that with the people around me, because I always had this shame or aversion to share with people about social anxiety. And even now, still, like, I think from writing my book, Awaken You, I share about an experience actually in Steamboat where I was having social anxiety, and where my sisters are actually understanding that because they had to read it in my book because I never shared it with them. I think that intuitively they knew about that, but the whole water thing, I think Rex always just thought I was a bitch or just being a nag about water. But what he really needed to know was I get severe anxiety when the kids are around water. And then one time when my kiddos were small and I was at my dad and mom's beautiful, amazing outside pool, and Milo literally was in the hot tub, and he just like choked on a bunch of water, and then I think he had jumped in the pool several times and drank a bunch of water. And then he just barfed like freaking disgusting, like hot dog chunks. And they had just had milkshakes everywhere. And I was holding him, and Jackie was like 3. And we had taken off his life vest, and I was still nursing him at the time. And I think I had nursed him, and I was consoling Milo, and I was like up on the ledge, and I was probably like 20 feet away from the pool. And all of a sudden, I just watch Jack walking into the water, just like in a movie, like down the steps one by one. And he just is walking in the water until the water is covering the top of his head. And I'm holding Milo, and I let out the most blood curdling, like shrill. And my dad was all the way across the pool, just like, oh, it's fine. Like, he's always like really chill and cool, which is great, Dad. Cool. But Jack is drowning, going to drown here. And I ripped Milo off of me and just freaking beamed it to the pool. It was like slow motion, gives me goosebumps everywhere, and like pulled him out of the water, and just he's and it was like, oh my gosh, it was so triggering, traumatizing for me. And even after that experience, like, so Jack's 8 now, and now it's better. So it was just like this accumulation of all of these experiences and things and fear myself. And I've really been just holding space for that. How many times have you had like that anxiety or overwhelm about an experience, and instead of like shaming or blaming or guilting yourself, how many times have you actually just held space for your shit? That's something that is like, have you ever even heard of that? I don't even think I ever heard of that. I didn't even know that you could do that. I didn't know that you could just be a human and give yourself compassion for feeling the way that you were feeling without feeling like a terrible human. Well, the time for change is now. Sorry, I'm shifting in my seat. The time for change is now. The time for holding space for these anxieties is now. We have to allow the shit to rise up, to heal from it. We have to fucking feel our pain. We have to allow it to rise up, to heal from it. And knowing, my beautiful soul sisters, that the universe is only giving you what you can handle, regardless or not that you believe that, it's true. You can believe it. You can believe it because it's true, because the universe is only giving us what we can handle. And all you can do, my lovelies, is take it one freaking moment at a time. So if you're struggling with anxiety when it comes to specific things, we have to also take these moments to reflect, maybe post the experience, because I know sometimes when we're in those anxious moments, it's hard to get out of those moments. And if you listened to last week's podcast, I wanted to do a check-in about, did you give yourself heart? Did you use that heart acronym for yourself when you were experiencing anxiety? Because I've been doing it, and I've been doing it with Junie. I'll remind you, H for heart was hold space for yourself. A was, H-E, let's spell correctly. E, I moved that one. I had it as enjoy, but I moved it to energy scan. Like, check that energy. Where is it flowing in your body? A, allow it to move through you. R, right? It's either rest or like give yourself permission to do something that can help you. I don't know why I can't think of the word. Is it reset? You know what I'm talking about. It's like recharge, I think it was. It's just like, I feel like that's your self-help tool. Use your breath. Allow. Maybe do a little bit of EFT tapping, that emotional freedom technique where you can cross your arms. Oops. Do that butterfly tapping. T. Thoughts. What are your thoughts? Thinking your new thoughts. Like, did you, or have you? If you haven't, don't judge yourself. Don't push it away. Don't say, oh, I don't need that. Yeah, I'm good. Try it. You have to try new things to see if they can help you. And maybe one of those things will resonate and maybe the rest won't. And that's fine. It's like a book. You read a book or you see a movie and there's so many things that don't resonate, but there's that one thing. There's that one thing that you can grab onto to tangibly help you in your life, because this anxiety is coming to us because we need to heal from this. And this is something that we get so misconstrued about, is that we feel like there's something wrong with us when anxiety or overwhelm is coming. No, that's coming to us because we have to heal that shit. We have something deep-seated that we have buried down deep in the dungeons of our soul, our body, our energy. And it is growing and it's growing and it's intensifying. And if you notice that anxiety it gets more and more constricting and more over freaking whelming when we don't cope with it, when we don't allow it. And you just think of it like, where your attention goes, energy flows. And if we're in those anxious moments and we are just being engulfed in those negative thoughts, those negative beliefs, and it transmutes into how we're feeling, and it can take us down, especially right at bedtime. This happens even to me and all of my self-care practices and work. But what do? I combat that shit. I come back with gratitude. I will literally, no matter what, if anxiety is coming, and sometimes it does, it will just come in and it feels like a suffocating blanket, like in a bag over your head. And you have to hold space for it. Hold space. And really, my beautiful soul sisters, what if in those moments that you can just feel what it feels like to be anxious? Instead of pushing it down or anything, feel it expand on that feeling. Wow, this is feeling really anxious. I'm holding space for this. I like to do this practice where I'll put my hands in front of me and hold space, especially at bedtime. It's just like I'm holding space to let out all of this yucky muckiness that I've been holding on to in the day, or maybe the day before, the week before, the month before, a year before, whatever you are. You have to give yourself permission to hold space for that, because if you can't make space, I am like having a really hard time with my microphone today. Apologies, my beautiful sisters. I am human. But we have to hold space for ourselves and for these human emotions other than just trapping them. And knowing that as an energy healer, my work, it goes so much deeper. the work that I do than just like this physical realm. That when we are trapping and we are experiencing a lot of anxiety and overwhelm, that the deeper we push that down, it gets pushed out into our energy centers and it creates like these energetic locks. And then it manifests right into those physical things. And then that's when we finally take note and we're like, oh my gosh, I need to help myself. You get that migraine headache. I have no choice but to go lay in my room and put a pillow on my head so you can breathe over your eyes and be in a dark, calm, and quiet space because your body, my beautiful soul sisters, is sending you constant signals. But are you listening to it? I really feel like I'm 39 years old and I am just listening to my body. I have been such I think anxiety has ruled my life and fear has ruled my life for so long that I feel like I don't have space. I don't have energy for it anymore. And I'm like, no, no more fear, no more anxiety. You don't get to control me anymore. I'm going to choose again. I choose again and I choose a different way. And I don't choose that. So instead of that, I am choosing to listen to my body and notice the cues that it gives me. It's funny because during all three of my pregnancies, I was so good because I knew that there was this life force within me and I was growing this baby and I always wanted to be a mama. I always knew that was part of my dharma. One of my life's purposes was to be a mom. I always knew that. And as a young girl, I thought I was going to have like 5 kids. But being one of 5 kids for me, it was too much for my birth mother and she had a really hard time connecting with all of her kids and balancing them that she created huge walls. And I knew that I didn't want that. And I thought for me that a smaller number of kids would be better. But even though I thought I would have 4, but I have 3, but a husband, right? That's 4. There you go. And then now I'm going to have 3 dogs. I am a little bit crazy. So really, I am going to have 6 kids. It's just what it is. And I have been I can look though back to my pregnancies and I was intuitive. I would listen to when I was hungry. I would listen to when I was tired. I would take naps. I would listen to, oh my gosh, my leg's hurting. Like I need to rest that or, oh, I need to stretch my back. But then, right, life picked up. You progress. You're a mom. You're a busy mom, especially when you have 3 young kids. You don't have time for yourself. You don't have time for anything but to keep your kids alive and fed and clothed and clean and growing. And it is so much. And I look back and I am like, oh my God, I did that. I raised my kids. Like I, they have survived. I can't even believe it. Like I remember when my kids were all toddlers, I had daily fear of one of them killing themselves, one of them falling off of something and like chopping off their head, like horrible, weird shit. Like one time I was going to a birthday party and I had to cross a main road and I had this image of Milo falling out of the pack and getting ran over by a car while I watched it. Like some really dark shit. And I think as moms, we all have that weird fear because we hear all these stories and there are things like that that happen. And I hold space for those mamas. And and even me, it was just like my mind was getting in the way so much. And when I started my awakening, when I started realizing that something had to change in my life 8 years ago, it just started with this like noticing that like I have to do something different because I cannot live another day with the woman that I am. I cannot live with her anymore. I cannot do this with you anymore. And that is where my healing journey began. And that is where all of this started. And it just slowly snowballed into this like noticing of my body. And then, oh my gosh, this awareness of like, I have this body and I need to keep it healthy. Like I'm only getting older. Like I need to keep my heart healthy, my circulation healthy. I need to move my body in ways that I love and enjoy. But instead, being me, I beat myself up with working out. I did CrossFit and boxing and just injured myself constantly. I had like a pretty much like a fractured wrist. It was probably broken for like 9 months that I would still do push-ups and pull-ups, all of the things with. And then I realized I don't know if it was a realization as much as the universe kept just like bringing yoga to me. It was like, oh my gosh, there's this thing called yoga. And at first I thought it was just like, oh, this way to move my body and like work out. And then of course I like pushed that And then I realized, wow, there's so much more to this practice than I thought. There's so much more than just working out or doing planks and chaturangas, that it is this like spiritual practice. And that's where it was like just, I was like sucked in, like, this is for me. And I've been on this journey, and it has really allowed me to awaken to myself and to listen to my body and to listen to the cues of my body every day. And it's about being present with yourself, my beautiful soul sister. It's about paying attention to the signals that your body is communicating with you. When you do a certain thing, when you are around specific people, do you feel sick to your stomach? Do you get a burning, firing feeling in your throat or a pounding in your head? Pay attention to those signals. Your body's intuition, your body is signaling you like, this is dangerous. This is not good for you. Even if it's someone who is like your freaking family member. What? Your family members, yeah, you can get those signals like, I cannot be around this person because every time I am around this person, I feel I am in this state of guilt and shame and these low vibrations. And I'm not saying that you need to cut ties with all of your family members. This, my beautiful soul sisters, is awakening your relationships. You must awaken your relationships by evaluating them and how you are feeling in these relationships with these people. Do you feel uplifted and grounded and safe and secure with these people? Or are they bringing this like disruption and this low vibrational feeling? Because our family, we all assume these roles. We just do innately, like from a child growing up, like your family, your core immediate family, we have our roles. And you can be a grown up, grown ass woman. And once you get around your parents, you just assume that role. It takes awareness. It takes you to wake up to this moment and realize, I no longer want to play that role. I'm going to recreate my role because my beautiful soul sisters, we are ever changing and shifting. I am not the same person that I was when I started this podcast. I'm not the same person I was at the beginning of this week, of last week, the month before, and neither are you. And this is so interesting because in my marriage, my husband and I are working things out, but he always held on to this perception that I needed to be that same woman that I was when I met him 20 years ago. Well, I would never want to be, I wouldn't even want to be friends with her if I met her on the street. If I met my 20-year-old self now, I would give her a hug and I would say, no, thank you, young shell. Like I choose again. And my husband got so cemented in our roles and how we needed to be that he forgot that, hello, I'm ever shifting and changing and growing just as you are. And if you can accept that about me, then you need to move along. And I said that, like, if you can't accept me growing and me shifting and me changing, like, I cannot help you any longer, but I am not going to throw away my life. I'm 39 years old. I'm not going to waste more days of this incredible, amazing life of mine to be arguing constantly, to always be in this state of blaming or shaming. Like, that is gross. Think of that. Like, think of your relationship with your closest people. What is the resonant feelings? Like, do you get around these people and you feel good and grounded and you're like, oh yeah, these are my people? Or do you get home and it's like, ugh, it feels really yucky in here. I feel confined. I feel stuck. I felt stuck for so many years. I was just feeling stuck like a month ago. And there has been something within me that has shifted. And I feel like I have created these healthy boundaries with my family and especially with my husband, that in knowing that creating boundaries doesn't make you rude or mean or it has to be hateful. Creating boundaries is so healthy. And I think of my kids, like I can't just divorce my kids and leave my kids like some parents do. That's not my path. I'm here with them through all of it. Through all of it, even though my daughter is like raging hormones and feeling so big and just such an emotional wreck. And honestly, she's like annoying me so bad lately. And I'm just like, I'm holding space for her and I'm holding space for myself. And I'm like, paying attention to my responses and my reactions. It just is. And this is where we are. And I'm holding space for it as I hold space for myself, because I know I once was that little 12-year-old, like who just wanted to be loved, who was feeling all of these emotional disruptions. And even at the age of 12, it's like you're really realizing that the world is not that safe of a place. When you're younger, you're like, oh, it's so happy and safe here. And the bigger kids get, their brain is just like developing and expanding, and they don't know. And I read this beautiful post by my soul sister that I went for a hike with. And do you know that part is that your prefrontal cortex of your brain is not fully developed until you are 25 years old. So even teenagers, early 20-something-year-olds, like their brain is not fully developed. Their brain is just developing. They don't have that really rational part of their brain that allows them to see like, wow, like don't do this because it's going to cause this result. They don't see that. They just need you to hold space and support them for where they are on their journey. And they don't always want you to tell them what to do, which has been really hard on my journey, because I always do. I've always like, I want to fix and I want to help. But now I'm really transmuting that into just like listening and allowing, and I'll still catch myself always wanting to fix, do the things, and instead just hold space for whatever it is. And then if they ask for help, like, yeah, I'm going to reach out and help you in whatever means possible. However I can support you, I will support you. But they don't always want to be helped. They just want to be supported. They want to be loved. They want to feel safe. They want to feel your kindness and your love around them. And it's a journey. And the older kids get, they just keep shifting and changing and growing just like us and just like our spouse. And coming back to that, listening to our bodies, right? So we've been talking about our relationships and noticing how we're feeling and creating those healthy boundaries. And healthy boundaries are things that you create for you in your relationship, because it makes you thrive in your relationships. I am not even kidding you. Creating boundaries for me really started about a year ago with my birth mother, that I had to not allow her to be a part of my life anymore. I had to create that boundary because she's very toxic for me. The feelings I get when I'm around her, and this is not an attack against her, I send her love, I send her forgiveness wherever she is on her journey. And I know that she was my mother for a reason. I know that she helped me grow and learn and be strong and grounded and rooted in the woman that I am. But for me, it meant that I couldn't have her in my life anymore. And it has been so liberating and freeing. And I have to let go of all judgment and perception of anything, because this is what, for me, it feels like to have balance in my life and to feel that love. And I realize that I always longed to have that mom that you see in the movies, but I didn't have that. But what I did have was sisters, and my sisters were always there for me. And knowing that we all have our own form of dysfunction in our lives, whether it's like our intimate relationships, our parents, our siblings, our aunts and uncles, grandparents, everyone has their own dysfunction. But knowing that, again, we get to create our family as grown-ups. Isn't that so magical and cool that you get to create the people that you want to be around? You get to create your soul sisters. And that's why I'm so grateful for these like ever showing up connections with women who are like my soul sisters, that you can't describe the feelings, that you just feel connected. You just are. And when it comes to creating those boundaries, those healthy boundaries, you have to just take a hard look at yourself, a hard look at that relationship. And you have to dig deep into your intuition, dig deep into your heart, because this is not coming from that space of insecurity or judgment. This is coming from that heart-centered space of, I love you so much. But in my life right now, like with my husband, I had to make boundaries of like, I am no longer willing to tolerate you talking any sort of crap about me being a stay-at-home mom and you making all of the money, because that feels bad and gross. We made this agreement 4 years ago that you were going to start a business and I was going to stay at home with the kids. Even though now it's like I'm shifting and I have this part of me that's like, you need to create something, Shelly. Like I have this I know this creation and this birth within me, and maybe it's my healing center coming to fruition or some sort of I'm in this space, but I also keep getting kind of stuck in this space because it's that like fear of the unknown creeps in, and I'm holding space for it. And I'm so grateful for books and teachers and signs like my beautiful friend who I shared with you in the beginning, Shauna, who was sharing about the sharks and the message, and knowing that like every day the universe is here showing up to support us if we are open, if we're open to seeing and we're open to feeling, right? To allowing that, right? And like we were talking about those healthy boundaries and creating those. And that's something that doesn't happen overnight, but you know what? It can. If you choose to drop into your heart and to reach out to whoever it is that you're struggling with and say, you know what? I need to have a one-on-one chat with just me and you. No kids, no dogs, no distractions. And I don't know what that would look like for you. I don't even know going to a coffee shop, because that could be like a hard environment and people might feel like trapped by that. But it is, the time is now. It's not when. You don't wait for when. You have to do it now. And yeah, you can collect and process and figure out like what it is that you want to say. I always love making kind of like a list, sometimes like pros and cons, or like things that like, these are things that I need from you. Like with my husband, I didn't realize that I never really told him that I needed to connect with him and communicate with him every day. Hi, I'm a writer. That's like what I do for a living. But when it comes to my personal life, I was not doing that. I was all business. We were just like business. Oh, this is his career, the house, the food we're cooking, the cleanliness of the house, the kids. And we were like two business partners who we've been slowly like melding into not being that and communicating with each other. And isn't this interesting? Just today, my husband told me, I really love touching you and connecting with you through touch. So whether that's he loves rubbing my back or snuggling or hugging me. And I didn't realize that. I never realized that. He never has once communicated how he wants me to love him. So one of his love languages is like touch. It just touch. And it doesn't always have to be sex, but it can just be that physical connecting. Or we fall asleep. Now we say, I'm grateful for you. We say that to each other. And then just putting my arm on his arm. Like I am not like a full on, like, I don't want you snuggling and all up in my space. We have a king size bed. Like, give me some space. I have 3 kids and these dogs, like I need space, but I will put my hand on his hand. And I've realized that that is his way of feeling loved and feeling supported by me. And how crazy, we are 19 and a half years later and he just told that to me. So it just shows that people can grow and people can change and people can be open to communicating even if they never have before. Like my husband and I were not communicating, but we wrote a goal list together of things that we need from each other, of these kind of like boundaries of things that we want to do, and also things that we want to do to come together as a family and a collective, and to raise our abundance and our prosperity as a family. And we made this list, and I've been looking at it every day, because it's one thing to say you're going to do something, but then to actually follow through and take that action. Like looking at that list thinking, okay, one of our things is to make sure we're hiking at least once a week and communicating, because we hike early mornings at least 2 to 3 days a week together. But we honestly don't talk much. It's more of just like our morning rise up, wake up, morning meditation, be in nature. And we're making sure that we're having that one date hike without the kids, where we are communicating with each other and how we're feeling. And it's not just business. Like, it's like, how are you physically feeling in your body? Like my husband's been struggling with depression and feeling like anxious and not processing stress. So that's in my wheelhouse to bring that to his awareness, like in the right space when we're doing that date hike. How are you feeling? Like, how are you feeling this week? when stress was coming, did you do anything to help you? And he's had a few moments where he's like, bye, bye. And, he's not able to realize that, or he wasn't able to cope with that. But at least I'm like keeping that awareness. And I wanted to continue on what I was talking about, listening to my body, is that my body lately has been wanting to sleep in a little bit. And I've been allowing myself to sleep in a little bit. And then I have been waking up at 6 sometimes. And when I wake up at 6, I'm tired, like so tired when like 2 or 3 rolls around. I get exhausted. And then usually I just push. And I will drink a coffee or a caffeine tea. And you know what I've been doing is I've been listening, and I will go sit down and read a book, or even go do a meditation, like turn on a 15-20 minute meditation and rejuvenate myself, and take that time to listen to my body. And even when it comes to food and listening to my body, I'll get very busy. And especially if I am experiencing a lot of anxiety, movement, action has always been my way of coping with that. So I'm just always keeping busy. If it's cleaning or reading a book or doing my training or doing my teacher training and cleaning the kitchen, or doing my teacher training and I'm always like working in something. And I have really been doing my best to make myself like just sit and relax, which sounds so ridiculous. Like, what? You can't just sit and relax? Like, no, it's really hard for me. It's a struggle for me to just sit and relax. That's like one of my things. And I know that it has been serving me and it has been helping me in the whole past 39 years, but I don't think that it's really serving me anymore. And the only way that I can shift that is by shifting it and changing. And so I have to just allow, and even though resistance and discomfort pulses through my body, I will make myself just like sit and just be. Or like the other night, all the kids were in bed and Rex was in bed, and I didn't realize, but I was just having a lot of anxiety and just like, all these things. And sometimes, that list of things to do just like piles up, and it feels like so much like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm ever going to get any of this stuff done. And then I've decided to send my 2 boys to school, which is like kind of scary, but exciting, but really scary at the same time. And so I think that has a lot of anxiety, and I just get really busy. So I'll just start like organizing my house and putting everything away, and organizing and cleaning, because right, and no matter how clean you clean your house, when you have 3 kids, that there's always something to do. And so it was like 10 and I'm like still cleaning and organizing, and Rex is like, are you okay? I'm like, I think so. Maybe I need to just stop. And so then I'm like, okay, you're done. That's your sign. Go lay in bed, be in bed. And then that's when listening to my body again, like, oh, I'm having a lot of these feelings. And then I will start bringing in my self-care practices of like, I practice breath work, and then my foundation practice is grateful. So I just repeat, I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful for my safe and cozy bed. I'll go over every single thing, and then the mind will start wandering, blah, 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 blah. And then I bring myself back. I am grateful. And then I start my manifesting practice of, I see my healing center. I start imagining what I want in my life. And if I'm struggling with something, I hold space for that too. Like I've been doing that a lot too. Or I'll do a forgiveness practice. And that is a hard practice, but it's such an essential practice. I think especially as women, we take on so much. And I don't know if many of us even know that we need to forgive ourselves. And people will say, I've had many women ask me, why would I need to forgive myself? Well, maybe just sit with that for a minute. Why would you need to forgive yourself? How hard are you on yourself? How high are the expectations you set on yourself? How high are those expectations maybe from your partner or your parents or siblings or people around you at work? Like, how is that doing for you? How is your self-talk? What is your self-talk? Is it positive? Are you like, yeah, Shelly, you're amazing it. You're crushing it. Everyone loves you. You are prosperity. You are abundance. You're love. You're light. Or is it on the flip? Is it, oh God, I didn't do that right. Oh, I fucked up again. Yeah. Oh, I'm a really bad mom. That's like one of the mantras that comes to me. And then I have to just hold space. And I know that I'm a good mom. And I like to combat things with like action. So I'm like, oh, you're going to call me a bad mom? I will show you how good of a mom I am. Like, I will hold my babies. I will hug my babies no matter what. Even though my babies aren't babies, they're 8, 10, and 12, which I'm like, how are they 8, 10, and 12? I don't even blink. People always said that, blink and your kids will grow up. And I always thought it was kind of like a load of BS. It's like so, it's like sad and funny and awkwardly true that they just grow, that every day passes. And I just like look at relationships around me of like children and their parents, and I want to be the kind of mom that I am today. And I know that it's not going to be perfect, and that I'll have moments where I fuck up, or my kids yell that I'm a bad mom, or that they hate me and they want a new mom. And I hold space for that because I really am doing the best that I can. And I am such a fucking good mom. I know it. I know it deep at the core of my soul. The truth is that I am a great mom, not just a good mom. I am an amazing mom. And if you are a mama too, I encourage you to know that you are a good mom. You are a great mom. You are an amazing mom. And that you're doing the best that you can. Give yourself compassion for this journey and where you are. So many things. I'm so grateful for you, my beautiful soul sisters. And our self-care practice is to listen to your body and whatever that means for you. So allowing yourself permission to respond to the cues. Like, are you feeling depleted energetically? Have you given too much? Do you need to rest? Do you need to take time for yourself? Do you need to say no to someone else so you can say yes to yourself? That is something that can be really hard, but so liberating when you say no. And just because you say no, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person or you're not wanting to connect with people. You have to say no so you can say yes to yourself. The universe is giving that to us as another one of those tests. And right, listening to your body when you're in certain experiences or around certain people, and doing that check of your boundaries. Do you have these actual boundaries? Have you actually told this person, like, what are your boundaries? What are the things you need from this person? And what are the things that these are not things that are going to work for me any longer? That you have to set those up. Like, I'm no longer willing to do this. Like, even if it's with a partner or a spouse that you've been with for a long time, and they would never expect this from you. Like, this is what I need from you. Like, I need some alone time. I need 3 hours a week by myself. Even if you're a stay-at-home mom, like, I need this time to myself away from my kids. Or if you're a working mama, like, I need this time to myself without any guilt, without you shaming me, without you making me feel bad for wanting time for myself. I need this time for myself. Like, how are we going to expect change if we don't ask for it? We have to ask for it, especially from our partners, especially if you are married to a male. I don't know what it's like to be married to a woman. I'm sure it's probably a lot easier because women are way more intuitive and can like listen to those cues. But being married to a man for 18 years, he only sees things really one-sided, and I have to tell him things, and he doesn't know unless I tell him, and I have to tell him even when it's hard. So it's time to have those hard conversations and those heart-to-heart conversations that come from our authentic part of ourself, come from that awakened part of ourself that has the best of us and those around us, like that has that best interest, and that it's not coming from the ego. Because if you try to create those boundaries from your ego, it's just going to go south, and then it explodes, and it's not good. And also listening to your body. I didn't talk a lot about this, but when it comes to food, this is something that I have intuitively been doing for years. Pay attention when you eat certain foods. Like if I eat gluten, if I eat dairy or sugar, I feel sugar, not as much, but the dairy and the gluten, I feel very bloated and lethargic and low energy. And I feel like I'm like 3 months pregnant again. And my lungs start feeling really, when I'm on sugar, I feel really kind of cracky, like cracked out, like ma. And you know what? I treat myself. I have these like favorite chocolate macaroons that have real sugar in them and they're organic, but they have sugar. And I allow myself to have that. But I read my ingredients and I pay attention. I pay attention when I'm drinking. Like I really have not been drinking a lot these last 4 years because I don't like the way alcohol makes me feel. I used to be someone who couldn't wait for it to be like, if it was 3 o'clock, I was like, yeah, I can have a beer now. Like I'm going to decompress from these kids and have some beers and chill. And I don't like to feel that out of control. I want to feel what it feels like in my body. And I know for me, like that has been a hard journey too. And it's hard even with a collective of people around me and people accepting that, oh my gosh, she's no longer my social drinking buddy, and creating and carving new relationships in that. And that's a whole other podcast. But really, my beautiful soul sisters, I really hope that today that you can look within yourself, you can feel into your body and listen to the cues that your body is communicating with you, because this is how we awaken to our lives. This is how we awaken to who we are when we start paying attention to this sacred vessel, this beautiful mind, this incredible beautiful body and all of its flaws and imperfections and maybe stretch marks and dimples and age spots and wrinkles and gray hair or fuzzy hair and all of its imperfections, and this beautiful light of yours, this spirit that is always craving growth, this spirit that is always craving love, that it just is. I love you. Please, my beautiful soul sisters, share this episode if there's something that resonated with you. If it resonated with you, I know it will resonate. Please share this out, share it to the universe, and head over to iTunes and leave Awaken You with Shelly Bond a 5-star rating and a review. It means the universe to me, and it helps me get heard and sharing all of these beautiful messages with women, because if this is helping you, imagine it's just like this ripple effect. Imagine all of these women that we can share these messages with. And you can hang out with me on Facebook, Shelly Bond, or Instagram, Awaken You, Shelly Bond. And please, you can also check out my YouTube channel, Awaken You Healing Center with Shelly, where I share all of my loves in one space, where there's yoga practices and mindfulness practices and my love for crystals and energy and healing work and all the things. I love it. It's a great space. So I love you. And remember, listening to your body, that's your self-care practice. Listen to your mind, listen to yourself, tune in to what you are experiencing, right? And know that it's a gift, that this is here happening for you, not to you, that the universe is here showing up, only giving you what you can handle, because you can handle this. You can do hard things by actually doing hard things. And through this is when our awakening happens, when we embrace ourselves, flaws and all, we walk into the darkness. And it just is. I love you. I'm so grateful for you. I will be back here hanging out with you next week.